As with other situations where disaster strikes, the war in Ukraine puts many people at risk, not only from Russian military attacks, but also at risk of exploitation by human traffickers keen to take advantage of the situation. They're quick to reach places where they can find women and girls, often for sexual exploitation. NGOs are raising the alarm that this is happening at the border across Poland, Romania, and other countries that surround Ukraine.
Unfortunately, what we know, not just from Ukraine, but from around the world, that whenever disaster strikes and causes people to flee situations, whether that's through natural disasters or in this case, war, it puts people at incredible risk. And usually the first people on the ground are the people traffickers, the human traffickers, who are looking to exploit this vulnerability to ensnare these people and put them into situations of unimaginable brutality, as they're often as they're forced, especially and unfortunately because it is predominantly women and girls, into trafficking for sexual exploitation. What we're already beginning to pick up on the border across Poland, Romania, and the other countries that surround Ukraine are stories and evidence of people traffickers operating and people disappearing.
We've seen young girls arriving alone, unaccompanied, and uncertain of where they're going. Some have relatives, some don't have relatives. They're not sure how they're going to get to where they want to go, or they don't know where they're going. And with that, there is the potential, the risk that there will be some actions of exploitation and abuse.
We do not have any specific numbers of trafficking cases that have occurred. We just have heard from different of our members across Europe of trafficking allegations. So, for example, Caritas Romania has said that they have encountered different suspicious individuals, mostly men, who have offered accommodation or transport to young women. We have also heard this in Moldova and even in Berlin, and this has raised red flags for us.
NGOs are working with the Polish government and other governments to raise awareness of the risk of human trafficking and to urgently put appropriate safeguards in place in terms of coordination, information, services and materials.
And we're delighted to see that the Polish government and other governments are doing this, is ensuring that information gets to the border so that when people are crossing the border, that what's put into their hands is not only you're welcome here and here are the services that you can support, but here are also the signs of what human trafficking looks like. And here are the numbers that you need to call if you get into difficulty or if you have concerns. So we applaud what is happening as that sort of first means of both identification and awareness raising, and we need to see more of that going on. You know, we have now exceeded 2 million people that are fleeing Ukraine. The vast majority women and girls, so they are extremely vulnerable to that situation.
Obviously, the situation, the scale of the situation, the pace of the situation is extremely concerning. And so 3 things come to mind immediately: coordination, information, services and materials. In terms of coordination, there is an obvious lack of coordination at the border. A number of the border crossings that we saw, a number of the reception centres that we visited, there is an obvious lack of coordination. Now here in Warsaw, there is an attempt by the broader UN NGO community to come together under the various sectors of child protection, gender-based violence, protection writ large, to address the coordination of all of our collective efforts to respond to what we have seen on the border.
And we provide them with some awareness raising materials, some flyers and posters on how they can spot potential human trafficking and what they can do.
In terms of information, again, what we saw at the border was that, and in the reception centres, that there is a distinct lack of information for the Ukrainian refugees arriving across the Polish border. There's little information on their rights, their entitlements, the services that are available to them and how they can access them. We hear from our colleagues in Polish NGOs and from Polish authorities and also from NGOs on the Ukrainian side that in fact information has been made available in terms of leaflets, posters, hotlines, But we did not see any evidence of them. So obviously that effort has to be expanded and scaled up with some urgency.
Despite the overall outpouring of goodwill and support for Ukrainians, the real risks of exploitation remain concerning. Efforts must continue to protect those arriving from the war zone by increasing prevention and deterrence measures across the board.
Amongst the seeming chaos at a number of border crossings and reception areas, there is a large volume of possibly majority well-intentioned people offering lifts and accommodation in Polish cities and in other cities in other European countries. We believe that it is critical that the authorities move with some urgency to a process where they register registration plates, names of people who are coming down, and who is going where, because the protection risks involved in this seeming chaotic picture are quite immense. So moving quickly to have a database that collects this information, what is available, what goods and services are available, and how people can access them is absolutely critical.
We also try to link up the different organizations working in different regions of Europe who have similar experiences so that they can share, and also link up with other state or UN organizations to share their concerns.
Politicians and public bodies are sensitive to the issue, but currently struggle to prioritize implementing the necessary measures.
I'm very worried about human trafficking, also now with the crisis in Ukraine. And especially about human trafficking for children. We know that children always are the most vulnerable during crises. And it was already in 2015 that Europol stated that in Europe, 10,000 non-accompanied children went missing when arriving in Europe. So for me, it's very important that we put everything on to protect the children in this crisis. And for that, together with my colleagues of the Intergroup on Children's Rights, we wrote already a letter to all the Justice and Home Affairs ministers to tell them, watch out, look at the children, protect the children.